I got to tell you, and this isn't just short term sentiment, from what just happened over the year and et cetera, but I don't want him to trade anybody. I'm perfectly happy. I understand that probably when Brown and Tatum's contracts come up, they're going to be in a little bit of a pinch. They might only be able to sign one of them. It kind of depends. I can't remember how it lines up exactly with Al Horford's contract, but I don't want him to trade anybody. I want to keep these young players. I know that they got a difficult decision on Marcus Smart, and if they don't make a trade, he's likely gone just because of the finances. But I really, as far as Brown, Tatum, trading, consolidation, it's the first time in a long time. I want to stand pat and see what happens next year.
I think that's what ends up happening. I think they're going to stand pat. I think they'll stand pat. I think they'll try to run back Smart. I think they'll try to run back Rozier and see what they can do.
You can afford Smart? I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah, because it sounds like it's close, and as long as they're not bringing back Monroe, if he's just signed the qualifying offer, that's not a whole lot more than what he's making right now. So they can absolutely afford Smart next year. The question is, does he get an offer sheet? And I can't imagine there's anybody out there right now who has a lot of money to spend and wants to bring in Marcus Smart and be the centerpiece. In this cap environment, I don't think it exists. So
definitely not the centerpiece. Definitely not the centerpiece.
I think the question is, do the Celtics want to trade Rozier now at his highest trade value that it will be? Or do they wait until maybe the deadline and try to flip him at that point? I think that's really the only question in my mind is whether or not they go that
for a
route.
pick. Then is that
Yeah, I think that's probably your best bet is to try to get a pick, try to get a young player to add to this team that can maybe somebody in the front court specifically, and try to find a way to make that work. You could combine it with your own pick, combine it with the Memphis pick, try to get in the top 10. There's a lot of talented big men, and this is a team, that really doesn't have a lot of long-term big men. I mean, we're going into a year. Al Horford, this could be Al Horford's last year if he doesn't want to opt in. This is his third year of his contract that he's coming into, a 4-year deal, and the last year is a player option. So there's some Al Horford contract stuff.
No, because. What you think? Why would he leave? He can't really make that much more money at that point, right? I mean, he might be looking for an extension, but I would think he would play out his last year. Are you thinking he thinks he can get one more big deal if he opts out?
I think after the Philly series, wherein he made the anointed next supernova person look like a complete fool, I think that probably has some value out there in the marketplace. Now he's 32, so he's got next year, and then he's got an option year. Just like Kyrie, basically. So you got to think, Kyrie is obviously a year away from free agency. I can't imagine they're going to do anything with him. Al's probably set. I think they're probably going to end up just extending Al and giving him a make good contract, not a make good contract, but a lower probably annual salary, but some longer, a longer term than maybe he might get on the market. We'll see. We'll see what happens. His market's very interesting. But you're right.
You're right. They could sign him to a longer deal than anybody would really want to, bring the numbers down, and use that to bolster the bench.
Like Gasol. Gasol is kind of the comp where he's gotten these longer deals from first Chicago, but also from San Antonio. Maybe not as much money at the top end, but longer years, and that's given him a little bit more flexibility. But also, it gives him maybe some more consistency in what he could be getting as an older big man. But
and he'd be able to play on a team that's still going to be good because you've got all that youth, and that's really the deal is they've got to be able to re-sign those guys. So maybe that's worth it to him, is to say, listen, I like the coach, I like the chemistry, I like the squad, so I'll take a little bit less money, but I want all that money made up, tacked on to the end of the contract. Then I know I'm just going to be here. And truthfully, if he gets that kind of if he gets that kind of duration on the contract, he knows he's going to be playing for the mid-level exception and all that in his later 30s, right? He's not going to be getting, big contracts at that point. So, what is it to him, other than guaranteed money now versus spread out? I think he would definitely do it. I like where you're going with that. What about Kyrie, though? I mean, I would think it's kind of a dicey thing because you would have thought that the extension would have been negotiated this summer, and then we have all this injury stuff. I think it's still a safe play. I mean, it sounds like the surgery was really something that should have been maintenance and slightly complicated rehab, but I don't know that there's really a big time concern about his ability to come back fully. I mean, if he was a leaper, like out of the gym jumper, and that was how his game was, impacted, then I'd be nervous, right? If his game was all athleticism, and I'm not saying he's not an athlete, he is, but there's so much he does with the ball, and the athleticism isn't necessarily just quickness or jumping. A lot of it is knowledge of the game. His he's got that, ability to just put spin on the ball. Those are things that I don't think go away. And so he could be a safe play for extension this summer just fine. Do you think they'll work towards that extension despite the surgery?
I don't think they'll do anything until next year. I think they'll go through the year. Not to say they don't trust the surgery, not to say they don't trust that his knee's healing fine. I think it probably is doing just fine. Obviously there was an issue. You and I talked about, whether or not whether there's some infection in there, what have you. It seems though that was the primary concern. I don't think that's going to be the issue. I think it's more of a question of, okay, where are we going from here?